So we've been living in Egypt now for over a year, and there's so many things that I know now that I wish I did over a year ago. So this video is about helping you understand whether Egypt is the right place for you and all the things that I know now being shared with you to help you make that move easier or just make the move in the first place. The first thing is, one of the things that I noticed around if you're thinking of moving to Egypt is there's a particular type of person that moves to Egypt versus places like Dubai, Oman, Qatar. And that person for me is a person who's content with living a life on their own terms with a sense of balance and with an emphasis on reconciling the idea of family life with the idea of still being productive and still working towards building something. And what I mean by this is Egypt just isn't the place if you think it's going to create you an immense network or present to you business opportunities all the time. It's probably better suited for someone who's already coming here with whether it's a business that's already established or some form of remote working that you can rely on, because those that don't have those things in place, I've seen have gone back pretty quickly. And there's obviously a lot to do with psyche, a lot to do with existing relationships that you can leverage, benefiting you being here without putting your pressure on you financially. So that's the first thing, that you need to be a person that already has something probably established, already has the benefits of being able to work remotely, because if you don't, what's going to happen is you're probably going to be looking to go back pretty soon. And the reality is, if you're thinking of doing a move like this, you're going to need some sort of financial runway. And that leads into the second point, which is you have to really appreciate that the benefit of being in Egypt is the ability to develop and have that emphasis on personal development, not just an emphasis on personal development for religious sake, but also the personal development for self-growth and the ideas of you building something. And I say this because I meet a lot of people who are just doing one, and because they don't have the other thought about, they go through a burnout phase. Whilst if you're coming here with the idea of wanting to grow from a personal development perspective religiously, at the same time that might be Arabic, at the same time that might be business, sets you up best for success in my opinion. I think that's a really important thing. Coming back to the idea of ensuring that your goals are in place, that's facilitated for me by picking the right place to move into in the first place. So if you're from the UK, US, one of the things that I learned is us picking Rahab as a compound to begin with, and thanks to Salashri for the recommendation on that, that actually set us up for a fast start. That set us up for a easier transition than those that I know that have moved to Nasser City, which can sound like a culture shock, those that have moved to other areas in old Cairo. And just because we've moved into a place that's more similar to what we've experienced as life in the UK, maybe for you who are from US or from the US, you'll probably have a higher standard of life than probably what's found more often than not here in Egypt. So picking the right place to begin with is a critical decision for me. It's the most important thing that you can do before you move here. I hear so many, even within my own network, I've had family members who said before we were moving, they were like, "Are you sure on Egypt? Are you sure on the place?" Because I know friends who went over there and within 6 months they came back. I think a lot of that's to do with just making sure you know your living standard and finding a place that is at least as a minimum the same standard, if not better. Because if you're not kind of living life like that, the transition to any new place is hard. But when you are having simple situations like security issues or concerns, or thinking about the dustiness of a place or the air quality of a place, if that place isn't actually a better place for you and your family, you'll find yourself questioning those things even more. You'll be thinking about them all the time. So make sure you pick the right place to begin with. My recommendations for any family that's moving from the UK, US, you should be moving to Rahab or Medinati as the first places and expand from there. And with that being said, make sure you do your research before moving here. There's this thing which people here call maybe the foreigner tax. And when it comes to moving here, one of the things that I suggest in that process is you come for a few months first, or if you can't do a few months, you come for a week as maybe the individual, maybe the father, maybe the male who's responsible for the family, and you spend some time just lining up the place with a local, because if not, you're going to get the foreigner's tax presented to you and you're going to be paying a lot more. And then what you'll find is within a few months, people will be giving you the feedback and telling you actually you're paying a lot more than you should be. And then you'll be having to move very quickly again because you just won't feel content with the idea of paying substantially more than others. So when you are coming here, once you've identified the place, try to pair with a local. And of course, there's lots of brokers who can help you do that. But build a relationship with these individuals, with someone that you can trust over time. If you can't, then you come here for a week, identify 4 to 5 different brokers, go with your gut instinct of those that you can trust. Obviously, pray istikhara if you're Muslim and get some advice if you can. But go through that process because making the transition here is definitely made easier when you know you're paying the right amount. Other things that I wish I knew earlier, things like the medical side of things. So generally, when you live in a compound, you probably find that there's a hospital or medical center. But what you'll see very quickly is as you go to those places, the standard of care probably isn't to the level that you are wanting. So make sure you do the research with the things that are really important to you, the medical side of things, the schooling side of things, the extracurricular activities, or just the activities that you want to do outside of your basic 9 to 5 or daily activities. Make sure you've got things identified so it makes the transition easier. As an example, with the hospital side of things, there's a great German Saudi hospital that I thankfully knew of because another family friend of mine who's thinking to move here did that bit of research. So just those little things taken care of in advance makes you identify all the things that you're going to need and the right solution for it. And what are other things that I wish I knew? I wish I knew, which is going to sound quite typical, or you're going to say, well, that's surely expected. I wish I knew how bad and how challenging the air quality is. And that's something that you just have to deal with or find a way to deal with. So if you're from the UK, you probably, especially if you're from the north, maybe not if you're from London, but if you're from the north, you're probably used to a better quality of air. And that means that you're generally thinking about how can I just get better air circulation, whether that's things like air purifiers or the air conditioning or the dust control that you're trying to implement. And that for me made the first few weeks very challenging. I had like a headache nearly every day for a month. So just bear that in mind, that you're going to have certain things that you're going to have to forego. And that's probably the biggest thing. Things like water quality, like we don't actually drink tap water. I can't remember if at all, maybe a few times because of necessity that we've had to drink tap water. Otherwise, we're ordering bottled water all the time. And obviously then that presents issues around plastic. So there's little things like that, things like the sheer amount of dust. Doesn't matter if you're living in a brand spanking new compound or a really well-maintained compound, you're going to be thinking about things like air quality of sleep then is impacted. So bear that in mind if you're thinking of moving. And that's something I didn't really factor in, and the impact of that, whether it's sleep, whether it's waking up. Things that are massive pluses for being here that I didn't know of is, of course, everyone will talk about this, but the quality of life and the cost of living. If you're a person from the UK, US, you're going to have an advantage, right? You're going to be bringing pounds or dollars, and that materializes in the quality of life. You are generally able to buy things that you are paying maybe 3, 4, or maybe more, 3, 4 times the amounts that you'd be paying in the UK, US. You're paying significantly less. You're paying a third of that, maybe less. And that means that you have a lot of little things that really compound in creating a higher quality of life. As an example, you might want to send your daughter or son to swimming. Generally, swimming that's 3 lessons a week, 2 to 3 lessons a week for a month is only costing you 20 to 30 pounds. Generally, from my experience in the UK, one swimming lesson is around 20 to 30 pounds. So you're going to see things like that, especially when it comes to quality of life, compound and create a quality of life that you can really design. And that's the biggest advantage to living in Egypt. I think it really allows you to live life by design, especially if you are from the UK and US, because you're bringing that particular foreign currency here. And you can have house help, whether that's cleaners, maids, things like just maintenance. You can get done pretty quickly because you have the advantage of your currency. And that just allows you to live more freely from my perspective. And I think that really benefits your family. One thing that you don't have is maybe your close community that you've grown up with in the UK, US, but you'll be able to replace it Egypt with other ways of having a high quality of life. Do bear in mind that if you are coming here with a wife and family, you probably want to think about that community. And that's one thing that I really miss. I really miss the community that I grew up with, the ability to be able to just go do something in the evening. Generally, unless it's a Friday, unless it's activities that we've planned, there isn't much element, or there isn't an element of spontaneity. And I think I miss that particular element. But if you can build a great community, then that can be remedied for. I just haven't found that on a day-to-day basis. I found great people, but just not that on a day-to-day basis here in Egypt. Maybe Dubai is different, maybe Qatar as well, because there's such a big expat community and particular caliber of expat community that you find familiarity with. It's just one thing to bear in mind that I haven't really experienced, although we found some great people. Right, I'm just going to have a cheeky look at my laptop because I can see what other things people have asked me. So things like safety, coming back to it, it's a massive surprise here. Safety, generally one of the things that people ask one of the things that my family asked before moving here is it going to be safe? Is it safe to be moving to Egypt? And I kid you not, generally in New Cairo, from my experience, there is no comparison to the level of safety that we feel here versus life in Manchester versus what people experience in London. There's just no comparison. Our compound has literal security guards that sit at the bottom of the area, and they manage that particular area around them, and that particular security guard, that person exists all over the compound. And generally these compounds are super incredibly safe. Kids are playing outside till 11, sometimes 12 a.m., especially in the summer, because it's so safe for them without their parents generally as well. So there's no comparison between safety from my experience here in New Cairo. I don't know what it's like, although I've heard stories of what it's like in Leicester City in the old side. But for me, that element of feeling secure and feeling safe, there's no match. And coming back to other things that are important, we've talked about quality and cost of living already. The final thing for me is just you knowing why you are here and reminding yourself of why you're not in a place like Dubai or why you're not in a place like Qatar. And I think when you do that, when you lead with the end goal in mind, it allows for you to have daily wins because you know they are compounding to your overall objective. Like me, the reason for us being here is I wanted to create a quality of life for my children, for my family, that prioritized them from a religious perspective, whilst not abandoning all the things that I've already built from a dunya and from a life perspective. And because I've done that, because I know what my goals are and what we're working towards, if anything is connected to those goals, it's a massive win. And if anything isn't connected to them, then I'm not really bothered by it. So just bear that in mind, that Egypt's a great place when it comes to being persistent towards living a more purposeful life. You're going to have a lot of patience, especially around bureaucracy, especially around the visa situation and the iqamas, which is like your residency side of things, where if you're trying to live here for over a year, you're going to have to deal with a lot of paperwork, a lot of back and forth. And that is a big drawback of being in what some call a third world country. But from my experience, if you're thinking of moving to Dubai, if you're thinking of moving to Qatar and you want to have more balance in your life, personally, I think you're looking at the wrong places, and Egypt could be a place for you. I think it will be a place for you if you're prioritizing purpose. So there you have it, guys. If you want to live a more purposeful and persistent life with a bit of patience, then maybe give Egypt a consideration. Drop into the comments below what your thoughts are, what questions you might have, and hopefully I'll answer them in the next video. Thanks for watching.